Can Jesus get horny? That was a rhetorical question. Do not answer. In today's video, I wanted to talk about an aspect of Jesus people do not typically talk about. That is his human nature. In my opinion, that makes him very unique, but it is a very underlooked topic because, at least in the Christian sense, if he was just a human, then kind of just be that another human in the biblical story. Special, the specialness that he is God, but I find it interesting that he's human and God at the same time. Now, I want to talk about how Jesus interacts because Jesus does display strong emotions with other human beings, but I kind of want to deep dive into it. I'll use two examples, right? One where he was very fearful of death to the point of sweating. This was days before his crucifixion. He was in prison, praying to God, sweating blood. Very strong emotions, clearly. Very strong human emotions. Secondly, I forgot the specifics. I ain't gonna lie. I forgot the specifics. But it's essentially when Jesus got angry because I believe tax collectors, yeah, they were using like his temple, God's temple for profit. And Jesus, like, he started whipping people. He made a whip, started whipping people to essentially stop using my father's temple for profit, right? Very just strong displays of emotion, right? But I want to kind of interpret. But here's the problem with that. Not that there's a problem with that in general, right? Not the emotional part, right? But the problem, right? Jesus is God, and at least in the theist sense, which is Christianity, they use the theist sense. That God is all powerful, all loving, and all knowing. We're going to focus on that all knowing part. So Jesus essentially knows this already. That's what makes it very interesting to talk about. These are not just these are not only just strong displays of emotions, but he knows this. This kind of creates some questions. Does Jesus have free will? He should, because he's God. He should have free will. But God the Father, they do say they're one and the same, but at the same time, the Father is above him. Jesus does say that. So, does Jesus have free will? Because what's stopping him from acting, not acting out those emotions? Right? Or what's stopping him from responding differently, right? Who's to say? I y'all get what I'm trying to say, like, is he is Jesus bound to react that way because that was God's plan for him to get crucified eventually, right? Or could he act out that plan because he is God himself and he can choose rather not to do that for humanity or do what he did for humanity, respond the way he did, right? Okay. I do that one, I think. All right, here's here's my kind of answer. It's my own answer. It's not really a good one, but it's an answer. I believe I believe the best way, the closest way to boxing Jesus to give a plausible explanation for how can this possibly be? How how does he truly does is Jesus's emotions genuinely are they genuine? Right? Because he knows these things. Is he just eh, is he just giving the perfect responses because he's God, or does he genuinely feel that way? It's very hard to decide. But my conclusion is kind of both, and that feels anticlimactic. But let me explain what I mean by both. Jesus, in the process of being created, right? He does he doesn't know his plan. I think how it works with God, since he's outside of time, right? Um, like it's just for now. Like he's not constantly getting that information. He already has the information, right? So in the case of it is, oh my gosh, it is so interesting because he's a human flowing within time. He's existing within. Dang, oh my gosh, he's a human flowing within time, but at the same time can perceive information outside of time. And he displayed the ability of knowing of like future sight. He knows omniscience. So interesting. I do not know how to answer this. Okay. My answer is that Jesus does Jesus does know these things ultimately, but still being human, he's going to he still has those emotions. Like just because he knows something, like just because you know something. Let's say let's say for example, you know that 10 seconds into the future, you're going to drop, let's say your phone into the sewer. Now, naturally, are you just going to be unresponsive like a robot, despite knowing you're going to drop your phone in the future and you can't really do nothing about it? Are you going to be unemotional about it? Answer's most likely no. So if we use that analogy for Jesus, I feel like it's the same way. While he ultimately knows these things, because he's still human, going to be emotional about these things. Like he display emotion. That's very, but it's very interesting. It is so interesting to talk about and think about. Um, okay. So ultimately, I think I think how it is that Jesus is relatively stoic, not not stoic, no, not stoic. Like a human, he is emotion. He is pretty well with his emotions. He's very well emotional, but behind behind those emotions, I believe the best way to answer this question is that he has an ends to a means approach to life, an ends to a means way of thinking. That essentially means that despite knowing he's going to die, despite knowing he's going to go through the worst death, because ultimately he knows what he's doing is good for humanity. Despite that, I feel it's more so pushing his feelings away and eventually and essentially just doing it either way. All right, now that what else do I want to talk about? What else do I want to talk about? I do want to talk about the filler question that I used at the beginning because I just use that as a hook, but it is a little interesting to into. Um, so essentially, it asks the the question presupposes right. Can Jesus feel any type of attraction? It doesn't have to be sexual attraction. It could be any type of attraction, like romantic. Can Jesus feel like attraction to his creations as a human being? The dilemma, the technical mechanics of Jesus being God and human is that if yes, he can feel those emotions. It's just a little weird since still God, and especially how God loves us as his children, right? It's just so it's a little weird. It's like, but if no, if the answer to that question is no, he cannot feel those type of attractions. How human really is Jesus? So I have two answers to that question. Um, I like one answer more than the other, but I got two. Okay, so two answers. Here's my first answer. Due to how Jesus was born, right? Mary, a virgin, right? So he is so pure Right? He's born from a pure human. Right? He's born from a pure human. So naturally, yes, he is 100% human, but like his brain chemistry and biology is like altered because right, he's so pure. So I feel like if he were to feel like attraction, right? No, I feel like he physically, just biologically can't feel attraction. I feel like that's how it works. Like he just that's how he was created. Secondly, um, my second answer is I don't like this answer to be honest. I don't, and the reason why I don't like it, I'm gonna explain why after I say it. So the second answer is that that his two natures, his humanity nature, his human nature, and his godhood nature are counteracting each other, right? Jesus. So what this essentially says, right? This answer is Jesus can feel attraction to another human being, but theoretically, the God, the God side of him, like the God component of him, just naturally counteracts it. The reason I don't like this answer is because I feel like it takes away, excuse me, it takes away from Jesus being God himself, and rather it's God. It's more so like God intervening, God stopping Jesus, like He's preventing Jesus from feeling those feelings. And just a slight issue with that, it takes away from Jesus's divine nature, right? Because um, what's stopping God from doing that for any other human, right? Like, what makes Jesus special? So I do like my first answer better, but even so, I it's the closest thing I can get to a perfect answer. It's not a perfect answer. Now, what else did I want to get into? I wanted to talk about it's an article called the. I'm gonna be right back because I recorded this video last time. It pissed me off. It stopped recording when I switched tabs. So I'm getting my phone. Right. I got my phone. I got my phone. Got my phone. All right. This is going to be so much harder on phone. Just navigating it's going to be so much harder on. I can skip. I'll put this. I'll put a timestamp. So here's what I wanted to find. This one is kind of like iffy if we're using the Christian version of Jesus. What they essentially talk about, right? They talk about Jesus. This doesn't. So this is not. This doesn't really help me. It doesn't help us answer this question. Okay, okay. I'm gonna just summarize. I'm gonna just summarize it because I can't find it, but I remember. I remember a little. basically, Jesus, right? Essentially, in the article, right, he's being compared to and what they psychic is religious scholars acting in a very similar manner. Since Jesus claims to be God, however, if gurus also have similar claims, and sense of those gurus, they'll feel they'll be they'll have a sense of kind of a sense of elitism, right? That Jesus has in comparison, since it's so similar, Jesus because having claims directly from God Himself, that does have a sense of a I take back what I said. I did not mean to say that. Psychologist. I can't even say psychologist. Bipolar disorder, delusion, offers in this case. That's that's an interesting. They're talking about. This is talking about biblical Jesus, by the way. Um, I ultimately don't. Does debunk this. Now, granted, the resurrection, but they are using like I do not think that's correct. This is definitely my longest video so far. Y'all, y'all want me to talk about other stuff besides the underground? Let me know. I, I'm probably not gonna get this video tomorrow night because comment down how you feel so far.